Sure.
Thank you. I found a quote. Let me see if I can find it again, by Edgar Schein, which is said, the only thing of real importance that leaders do is to create and manage culture. The unique talent of leaders is their ability to understand and work with culture. So one of our questions here was that if you should give some advice to a young leader, I'm sure among the audience that we have for Academy, there are several young leaders or new leaders. If you should give, Peter and Ed should give this young leader an advice as to how to become successful as a leader and in his career, his or her career, which pieces of advice will you give?
Well, I guess I would now, with a broader perspective, say, you are culture, you create culture. Of course, you have to manage culture, but it's pretty abstract. And the way to really think about today's world as a leader is around complexity and the fact that you can't do it alone anymore. I think when I wrote that statement, the lone leader was still a hero. I think today's leaders try to be heroes, and some of them do know enough. There are still people like Musk and so on. But I suspect that they listen a lot to other people, that they are more agile and willing to adjust to reality than we may realize, or they wouldn't be succeeding. So I give the environment and nature a bigger role these days than I give leadership. I think leadership is now a group sport. Leaders have to adapt, groups have to adapt, and humanity has to adapt because we're going to burn to death in 10 years if we don't.
Yeah.
So I would say, yes, that old statement about culture is true, but more relevant today is your ability to live in the real world with nature and with other people.
And relationships. Yeah.
And I would add one sort of maybe mechanism to try to do that. And that is, whatever the right cadence is, a day a week, or 10 minutes at the end of every meeting, or a lunch gathering, whatever the right mechanism is, put the agenda down, put the tactical priorities of the day aside, and spend time in some sort of form of a check-in or some sort of form of a group conversation to let people tell what's on their mind. Give them the space, give them the psychological safety to kind of to say what's on their mind. And the problem with this is that, oh, well, we better do an offsite. Or no, I think those can be great, but it maybe really ought to be something you do in every meeting. And if it's not in every meeting, then a couple times a week. Something that is built into the routine so that you get people starting to be open, and then you get people starting to be trusted and feel trusted. As a way of it's obviously a cultural shift. If that seems striking to people, that will create a change in culture. I don't know how long it's going to take, but but to Ed's point, it also creates resiliency.
Yeah.
And resiliency is the thing that organizations need as much as they need strategy.
True. To fight stress and to fight what can affect you as a human being and the group as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And in the macro culture, we have to find a way to get past competition into collaboration.
Yeah, that's an interesting. Do you have a solution to that?
No.
No.
And maybe as humans, we won't be able to do that. But it's nature is strong. And if we don't collaborate to deal with nature, we will be the victims, not nature.
True.
I mean, I think it goes back to that basic struggle of individual benefit and individual compensation versus group benefit and group compensation.
Yeah.
And in the US, man, that's communism.
Yes.
If you compensate people for how the group did, that's communism. We don't do that here. No, of course, that's crazy.
It is.
And there are a lot of people in the US who don't actually believe that, who believe that group incentive and group rewards work. But we have a big macroculture problem with anything that looks too collectivist. And that may not be true in Denmark. I mean, the Scandinavia is supposed to be a little bit more comfortable with that stuff in general.
True.
But that may be more Norway and Sweden than Denmark. I don't know. You tell me. But it's a basic struggle. If you could change how people feel rewarded and compensated, be less about what they do than what their groups do. I just don't see that happening anytime soon in the US.
It's true. I think US is like it's a long history of competitiveness, isn't it? And a long history of some degree of individualism.
Yes, and if there's any one thread through the Humble Leadership series, it's Ed's and also my struggle with that individualism being ultimately sort of destructive. Unfortunately.
I think in Denmark we have a more social agenda, a longer history of that. Also, we pay extremely high taxes for all kinds of social benefits. But what it does, of course, is, without me becoming political in any way, but it makes sure that there's not that much difference between rich and poor, and which in turn gives the macro culture a high level of trust.
Right.
So we enter the workspace every day, in fact, without being very much aware of it, but we do enter workspace every day on the computer or physically with a high level of trust. And with a high level of trust, we do have good possibilities of building more group culture, building more team culture, of course, but also we do have incentives on individual level and so on.
Well, very nice talking with you. I hope your audience will get something out of this.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. It's been so interesting. I wish we could keep on talking for all the night here. Thank you so much on behalf of Hartmann's and Hartmann's Academy members, and have a wonderful day in California.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for this great conversation.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.